This is Conversation Crossroads, and I'm your host, Andrew. So, there's been quite the shift in the Democratic Party's handling of the riots in today's, Portland, Kenosha, Chicago, New York. I mean, the list goes on and on of cities that have had these riots. And there's been a massive shift from one political side, the Democrats, in how they're treating it, how they're handling it. And I think it's strongly due to some new polls that have come out. And obviously, most Americans, right and left, do not support these ongoing protest riots. Usually they start in a protest, and then nothing good happens after midnight. And after midnight, bam, it's like fire, riots, because shade of night can help you get away with stuff, I guess. I don't know. And there is a sort of psychology. Once it gets past a certain time of night, your psychological limits of decision making, right from wrong, it does start to get blurred. And that's a whole other can of worms I could get into. But the Democrats actively were supporting the protests. Obviously, Black Lives Matter, which it's a political movement. I don't want to get on the Black Lives Matter movement as a whole just yet. That'll be a different video. But for a lot of them and a lot of cities, the prosecutors, the state, the mayor, they held their cops back. They would not prosecute arrested rioters who were, say, burning something down, committing some sort of crime, and the protests get out of control. They make arrests. Prosecutors would let them go. No, would not charge them with anything, and that was happening in many cities. And there's been a shift, and I would like to add that Joe Biden's campaign actually was funding people getting bailed out from doing crimes from their rioting and protests. Peaceful protests is like the normal media likes to claim it is, but obviously if it's a peaceful protest for 3 hours and it turns into riots for the next 3, I would just sum it up as riots. Having half of it as peaceful, it doesn't really matter if it ends with the destruction of many buildings, but that's neither here nor there. They did actively fund getting people out of jail that were, were going to be prosecuted. They were arrested, and now there's a different light. They've seen the poll numbers come out. They've seen the opposition from the normal American people. The polls have swung in Trump's favor. So now their political message changes. And I would like to play this little clip. It was well done, I would say, for the most part. But let's hear it.
I want to make it absolutely clear. Rioting is not protesting. Looting is not protesting. It's lawlessness, plain and simple. And those who do it should be prosecuted. Fires are burning, and we have a president who fans the flames. He can't stop the violence because for years he's fomented it.
Okay, I'd like to stop it here. So first off, he claims Trump fans the flames. I would say he is correct in the terms of Trump's language is divisive. It can be very divisive. He's correct there. Now, to act like he's taken the moral high ground by this whole thing, which is obviously what he's doing, he's saying that I wouldn't be as divisive. I'm against the violence. It's obvious. Trump and him, everyone's against the violence. It doesn't look good for anybody. No one supports that. Trump does have divisive language, but he is absolutely... Well, first off, let's see this picture. This picture was from years and years ago. This is footage from those white nationalists, from the statues being taken down. It happened like 3 years ago, and they're pulling footage to show like it's happening right now, and it's not. That's pretty unfair. Let's continue on.
But his failure to call on his own supporters to stop acting as an armed militia in this country.
Okay, that's outright not true. Trump. Okay, first off, there has been instances of a few armed militia members with conflict in certain areas, but this has been happening for 2 months. There's been riots happening with no armed militia from either side. I mean, it's just rioting and protests for Black Lives Matter or Antifa. That's been happening for 2 months, and just recently, just within the last week, we have seen some armed militia. We've seen some shootings. That's a whole other can of worms. But that's just been within the last week or two. And, I mean, obviously, like, Trump should condemn violence that they do, and he might have already. I don't know about that. But it is completely unfair to act like this is a battle. The only reason that these riots are happening because it's a constant battle between two sides. That's absolutely untrue. It's been a one-sided battle for the last 2 months of people destroying their local communities or people flying in from other states to destroy other communities in the name of a cause that, quite frankly, most of their cause and what they want has already been achieved in America in terms of freedom for blacks and non-prosecution, non-racism for blacks. I will say that reform for the police is necessary. I think the body cams will clear up so much. It'll clear up bad cops. They won't be able to do it so easily, and if their cam gets shut off, they should be penalized for it. Good cops, they will be rightfully shown in the right light instead of twisted by the media, twisted by circumstance. It'll clean everyone's act up. It'll clean the person who knows they're getting filmed. It'll clean their act up. They're not going to be trying to pull some, shady stuff to get away with something because they know they're getting filmed. It'll clean up everyone. So I think that, yes, body cams is a very good solution. And that's being said, I think that's been pretty achieved by the Black Lives Matter movement, and in that sense, I would say successful. But it's been going on. I mean, that everyone agreed with that a month ago, and it's still going on. And now we're trying to claim that the only reason there's violence is because of Trump's armed militia. That's just not true. There has been conflict because of it, but is there fire and riots every night because of that? Absolutely not. Let's finish this out.
Shows how weak he is. Violence will not bring change. It will only bring destruction. It's wrong in every way. If I were president, my language would be less divisive. I'd be looking to lower the temperature in this country, not raise it. Donald Trump is determined to instill fear in America.
I think the moment the Democrats sided and started advocating for not prosecuting rioters is the moment they were inciting violence, honestly. I don't think Trump particularly helped the situation. He has offered aid, federal aid, to mayors and governors that need it and request it. But then they let the mayors and governors, Democratic, of their cities, they let their pride get in the way, and they're not going to accept help. And so I think there's accountability on both sides. Trump, with his, he does say divisive things. A little go into psychology here. When you attack someone or make a judgment on someone, a vocal judgment where other people can hear, you put that person in a dilemma. That person, they could either curl under the weight of your insults, which no one wants to do under any circumstances, or they'll get defensive. And what Trump does is he, like let's say the Portland mayor, He bashes him, says he's incompetent, which I frankly kind of agree with at this point. But he puts the mayor in a position where if the mayor now accepts his help, he looks like he just caved under the pressure, even though accepting his help is the right thing to do. So Trump put the mayor in a position where he can't accept help because of just the political corner Trump has put him in. So both sides are at fault. By all means of the words. Both sides are definitely at fault. But it is, in the end, the mayor's responsibility to take care of his city. So let's continue on and finish this up.
Because Donald Trump adds fuel to every fire. This is not who we
I think both sides are adding fuel to the fire. Acting like you're morally higher is, I don't think that's justified by them. And most of the time Joe Biden's been in the basement and he hasn't said a word about most of this. Most of it's all of his surrounding supporters or whatever advocating for him. Kamala Harris she's spoken out obviously a bunch about it.
We are, I believe, will be guided by the words of Pope John Paul II, words drawn from the scriptures. Be not afraid. I'm Joe Biden.
Now, that was a sly move. That was a sly dog move right there. Slipped in a gospel reference. Pope Pope John, was it Pope John Paul or Pope John II?
Be not afraid. Words drawn from the scriptures. Be not afraid.
Anyway, that was sly because in the Democratic National Convention, they left out God from the national anthem. It's obvious that they're the party. They claim to be the party of logic. They don't want to be associated with religion. State and church should be separate, whatever. And yet he slips that in there, and I think that goes to show kind of the whole frame shift that we are seeing right now in the Democratic Party. They realize now that their polls have been hit, that the only thing that's going to bring them back for a lot of people is good religious morals, Christian morals. He threw that in there because a lot of his supporters are from the black community, and the black community is notoriously, religious. So he's been losing in the polls the black vote, and this is his way to get it back, and we've already heard quotes that the Democrats kind of take for granted the black vote. Well, seeing in the polls, there's been a big shift lately, and they're trying to bring it back. They have to secure the black vote, or it's going to be hard to win the election. But let me know what you think about all this. This is some crazy stuff. It's been like a 180 for the Democrats in the last couple weeks. Send some comments in the section below. We'll start a conversation. Like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you like the channel, and I'll see you next time.